Right? Like anyone who's done work on a cruise ship, just please stitch this with your pros and cons.
Hey, I worked on cruise ships for 6 years, 4 of which performing and 2 of which directing and installing shows from ship to ship. The reality of cruise ship work is that it varies so much from not only position to position, but also from company to company. I worked for Royal Caribbean this entire time. I had friends who worked for Norwegian. Can vary a little bit. So first things first, you need to find out the privileges of your specific contract. And as far as I'm talking about for all of this is only for people in entertainment. I'm not talking about like the rest of the staff on board. One of the biggest things that I noticed on my contracts were there was part of the cast that had certain privileges and part of the cast that didn't. And it tends to kind of create a sort of caste system, for lack of a better term, in your cast. That's kind of funny how that weighed out. So a lot of the contracts that I had guest privileges. I didn't have to wear a name tag. I got a room with a window by myself. But there were other people in my cast who had, similar amount of duties, but had to do a lot more extra work, had to wear name tags, did not have guest privileges, had to share a bunk bed cabin with no window, etc. Now, 90% of the time, I would say if you're in entertainment, you're able to get off whenever you're at a port if you don't have like other work scheduled for that day. So if you're into it for the travel element, that's definitely going to be a part of it no matter what. Most cruise ship contracts, if you're in entertainment, are 8 months to 12 months. So it is a very long time and you cannot leave during that time at all. You can, however, have family come on board and visit you, either on their own dime if you don't have the privilege to sign people on, and that's another discrepancy. Some people have the privilege to sign guests into their cabin, usually those people with those nicer contracts, and then other people don't. So a lot of times when I was on a good contract, I would be asked to sign in like other family members or friends and then just kind of hope that they would get a room so that they wouldn't have to stay in my room, which would be weird. On Royal, at least, those contracts that were like the guest entertainer sort of contracts were called featured contracts. So see if your track says featured. If it doesn't, you're probably on those other contracts. Which if it's like your first gig is not a bad thing. It's like you kind of have to pay your dues. And you still get to have all the travel elements and you get paid really well. Now, I've also done like guest entertainer style work where you fly into certain ships and you're there for a few days and then you fly to the next ship over and over and over and over again. Those pay even better and you're basically a paid guest. That's the best of all worlds, but it's really hard to get those jobs. Either you're in with an existing group or you've done the work to like put together a show, film it, submit it to a cruise company, and then they book you independently. It's pretty rare. I'm assuming what you're talking about is just like a general cast on a ship, which that wouldn't apply. Overall, I would say you do miss your family. The biggest thing that people don't tell you, at least that I experienced, is that you really do feel like your life gets pressed on pause while the rest of the world is still playing. So that when you go back to your life, you're kind of like picking up where you left off a year later, but everybody else has a year under their belt. So you kind of feel like you're a little bit behind. And that can kind of play some psychological elements on you. But it's still one of the best things I ever did with my life. I got to see the whole world before I was even 30. And you can name a place, and I've been there because of my cruise ship work. So it'll also really challenge you, and you'll have to do a lot of different styles and things. I think it's great. If you've never done it, you should do it. Just know that going in. Know your contract and what you're getting.